Welcome to Deutsche Meisterschaft 2022, and at the behest of Lockman Ho, I'm actually standing up on the hill and recording the game. And you'll notice I'm not using a lot of video zoom because we want to actually see what the heck is going on. So, Phil Holliday, referee on the field at the moment, Denis Subrier on the far side and Arian Walti on this side. We have Touch München on the right in yellow and blue versus Touch Frankfurt in black and red on the left. Frankfurt starting to drive off their own 15-metre line. Scooting upfield. That's some pretty good metres, and they managed to affect their subs box play very well. But I don't think they'd be too thrilled with the amount of metres they've gained so far with the touch count. However, on this particular field, with the muddiness of the field, it's quite difficult to get all the way upfield and get a lot of metres. Good attacking move here. He scooted through to the end zone. He's managed to get the pass away. But no, it looks like there was a touch and pass there. So the pass has just come in a little bit too late. And unfortunately, a penalty going to München. Let's see what they can do here as they drive towards their box. Very classic. Oh, great dodge there for that rushing up defender, so we've avoided them. Good drag away from the box, but unfortunately they haven't quite recycled at the half as quickly as they would like. Mind you, the Frankfurt defence is still hanging back, so it's giving easy metres to München to get forward. Lovely pass. Maybe a question as to whether that one was touched in flight, but no, the referee has just said no, ball's down. A little bit difficult to spot the 7-metre lines on this field. That's where they are right now, rolling the ball. And we'll see how far Frankfurt can drive forward again. Henrik, the president of Touch Germany, with the ball there. Didn't think he got touched, but yeah, it looks like they got him on the back and he hasn't quite felt that. So he'll duck on back, roll the ball again. Or for the first time, I should say. But it's given München the opportunity to get their defence set, and that's going to make it very hard for the Frankfurters to get more go forward in their drive. And you'd have to say they're taking it a bit slowly. This is the time when they should be getting that defence back on the back feet, but they're not managing to do so. So they're definitely not going to make that scoreline and get themselves a scoring opportunity. This is what's required. So you can see the speed and the drive difference between München and Frankfurt. München are managing to get all the way to the line of gain before the defenders even think about moving forward. And then they just do a 1-2 between the link and the wing, and that is a very, very easy score. At this range, I'd say that's Vanessa who's got that ball down, so that's a fantastic outcome for them. But no, the Frankfurt were dropping back and just trying to get their line of defence in order to get it right, which didn't allow them to realign their players. So when München had 2 players on that defending winger, very, very easy to score. So let's see if Frankfurt can score this one back from the halfway. Yeah, that's not a bad go forward. Let's see if they hit the line again. Benny Edwards looking as if he's going to go for the second man play there, but definitely wasn't required. Yes, and they isolate 3-on-2 on the left. That's a good overlap, just squaring that line straight back up, leaving the defending link with nowhere to go. Easy score. So unfortunately, with missing the first 2 minutes of the match, I can't tell you what the score is right now, but I'd say it's feeling a bit close. Let's go with a little bit of zoom because I think we can sustain it, although the jitters are probably going to kill us, so let's go back out. That was about as easy as a touchdown as you're ever going to get. Pretty ordinary pass there. I don't think he'd be pleased with himself in terms of aiming for that gap. As we say, don't look, don't catch. München trying to exploit this close wing where we have two lady defenders, but they haven't quite got the right angle in order to actually let those girls create gaps. Frankfurt now forced to move upwards because one of their defenders is hanging all the way back on the scoreline. Ball inside the 7. Once the ball's inside the 7, defenders no longer have to move forward. They can't drop back, but they can certainly stand still. That's a big change in the rules from last time. Frankfurt recycling their team quite well, but burning a touch there with nothing to show for it. Would not be happy with themselves, and with fourth touch coming, you'd say, no, they're definitely not in a threatening position to score here. Although now Munich hanging off in defence. No, Frankfurt have got something showing here, and easy touchdown to 21. How many times do we have to tell you, don't kick the ball? It's not difficult to learn, people. See the referee recognising that at least one of the defenders was in that defensive 7-metre zone, yelling at the players to get them to move forward, but having no impact, unfortunately. München taking the ball back out to the 10 to roll it. Really, they should have been only going to the 7, but oh well, we'll let that one go, won't we? And now the attackers playing inside that last 7 metres. No, defenders called a touch, but then acknowledged no, she didn't make that touch, so that's a touchdown. Very easy score there. And apologies if I have not turned the camera quite far enough to get that into the corner of the frame. But we have a situation there where the Frankfurt defender has thought she is close enough to touch him, reached out, arm just wasn't quite long enough. So very simple. Drop the ball, easy, onto the ground, and we score. Yeah, good change of direction there by number 10. Just immobilised his defending number on the opposite. Kept the defenders from having the overlap there. But they didn't quite get the ball down before the touch was in. No overlap on the left. Yep, definitely coming back towards the right. There's a bit of a question there as to whether that pass was thrown into the player or actually a proper pass, but the referee, who's right on the spot, has said no, definitely played out by the defender, 6 again. So Frankfurt with a new set of 6, you'd have to bet that they've got a pretty good chance of scoring here. So they've given themselves a little bit of room. By retreating out, it forces that defensive line to come up. Defence is still required to come up, make that touch and not drop backwards. And now they've got the defence in disarray. Very, very easy. Unfortunately, Benoit caught out, trying to move left, trying to move right, but he knows he's offside, so he doesn't even attempt to make the touch because he knows it's not going to count. And Frankfurt make the easiest of scores right in front of the roll ball. Benoit used to play for Switzerland in Zurich, but is now obviously based in München. And Deutsche as well, another ex-Swiss player in München. And gee, having those two players come on in leaps and bounds in terms of their skill and capability. Something must be going right in the Munich training program in order to affect that. So we've had there a player just unfortunately creating an interference arrangement In fact, Munich's better play there would have been to try and pick that ball up and do something with it, because then the referee might even give you a free play out of that one. But the player there holding up his hands, appealing to the referee, saying, I want the penalty instead of the advantage play. That's not exactly what we want to see out of players. And he's just burnt another touch for his team. And of course now they're back into not really having a plan. So this is the big difference between Munich and Frankfurt. When Frankfurt got a new set of 6 near the scoreline, Frankfurt did a huge reset, pulled the defenders back out to where they wanted it, and then attacked with pace. Whereas Munich are playing just way too close to that scoreline, and they're giving the defenders way too easy a job to realign and make sure there aren't any gaps. So that's going to make it very, very difficult for Munich to score in that sort of situation. A little bit of free advice there from Shanghai, the super coach. Fourth touch there for Frankfurt as they drive up the field, and he's tried to scoot through with that one, hasn't quite worked. He figures he's the half, and the referee's twigged onto that one as well. Munich driving very hard on the box. You'd have to suggest that players just need to concern themselves a little bit there in terms of making sure you square up before you get to that box. But unfortunately in this case the player's gone down a bit, so it doesn't look like he's in the best of states. Oh, sorry, she's in the best of states. Probably should have been gender conscious about that. And there goes the hooter, so that will be half time. And we'll call a pause here. All right, we've just started the second half of the Deutsche Meisterschaft game between Frankfurt and München. And I've discovered at the end of the first half the score is 4-all. So it is a locked up score. And we've just had a defensive miss there, and number 6 from Frankfurt has gone through and scored a pretty easy touchdown. He didn't expect to get it himself, but he turned back around when he realised he wasn't touched and got that ball down. So congratulations to Henrik. That's 1 point. So Frankfurt up by 1. And a lovely little pirouette there from the president just to show his dancing prowess. Alrighty, let's see if we can get München to equalise the score here. Maybe a little bit off the mark there from the winger, but the referees will let that one go. Fourth touch coming, and they're pretty close to scoreline. They've got enough time for a strike jump, but no. They've just killed that play. Not a lot of momentum in here. It's a very difficult way to score a touchdown. But Denis Soubriere, the referee, is called not moving up from the defenders. So really critical that the attackers keep the ball outside the 7 if at all possible, because it forces those defenders to move. If you play with the ball inside the 7, then you are not doing yourself any favours. With 6 touches, you would have thought that München should have done something with that, but unfortunately they've played a really loose pass and they have thrown away a great opportunity for a score. And Frankfurt are absolutely away on this one. You'd have to put your money down on this one being a touchdown, and yep, certainly is going to be that. So unfortunately, München down the other end should have got 1 point for themselves, and unfortunately have released 1 point back to Frankfurt. So that is really going to hurt. Instead of it being equal scores again, now Frankfurt are up by 2. As the crowd gathers on the hill. Look at this huge crowd for such an important game. I spot at least 15 people and none of them are on their mobile phones, which is a miracle. So let's see what München can do with this ball. Lockie just taking it nice and easy, asking the defence to move up, but unfortunately without any actual pace for himself, it's going to make it very, very difficult. And he goes with the only option left, which is to try and get as low as possible and get underneath that touch. That looks like Ben Edwards from this distance, and gosh, that boy has some long arms. Oh, little bit of a touch on the ball in the roll ball there. And you can see the sideline referee has stepped in and just reminded the on-field referee, no, that's a fumble in the roll ball. So that's not going to be a touchdown, that's going to be the change of possession. Christoph giving me the look like he really wants to do something. I mean, there is the best looking man on the field. And if he drops his strides here, I'm going to have to delete the entire video. But that's not going to happen because Christoph's much too much the gentleman to do that. Oh, nice attempt at that long ball, but really threw the ball without looking and pays the price for it. So let's see what we can do. Blue and yellow, push forward. First touch. Now we've got a little bit of pace on. Change of direction just to get those defenders a little bit confused and drive into the gap. Maybe a question of a forward pass there from the half. But no, now they've got a fair bit of distance, but you can see Frankfurt is in that defensive line, in that attacking line there trying to spoil. And it really did disturb München. Took away their option for a play. 21's certainly a very, very fast player on the field. Great cover defence there by the link at 16. So München reset for the attack. Yeah, they got a local 2-on-1 overlap, but unfortunately the winger has come just a little bit too far in, forcing the attacking link to change directions and back herself for the score. And unfortunately didn't quite manage to do so, but it looks like it is 6 again. So from this distance, I can't quite tell you what happened there, but München have got a whole new set of 6 there to try and do something with it, so that's pretty good for them. Number 8 really just stayed on his line there, and the defender had him all the way through. If he was aware there was a change of direction, he just needed to step out into the further channel to the right, and then it would have been an absolutely certain touchdown. So that's just a little bit of lack of coordination between the two middles, not quite knowing what the other one is going to do, and therefore not being able to pre-establish the right channel to be in order to make that score. Certainly the same thing is happening for number 12 Link. He's just straight opposite his defensive number. If he pulled 3 steps out to the right and be into that gap, then it would really widen that play out for the middles to try and exploit those gaps much better. But they have taken the advantage from an offside play. So obviously one of those defenders has retreated to the line and they're not quite got their feet on the score line. That's the usual cause for an offside there. Definitely 2 or 3 touches in there. But Phil Holliday awarding a follow-on penalty there. So that's 2 penalties in a row. We certainly don't want a 3rd penalty, and you can see him there warning the players, no more penalties, please. On a 3rd penalty, when attacking the scoreline, you're going to have a player excluded, so it's like a mini sin bin. It just lasts until you have a change of possession, but no, in this particular case, that dive by the attacking player has cleared the defending player's touch. Defender was in a pretty good position, but just not quite there to make that touch. Or potentially Phil might have just had a chat to the player and said no, the player was still offside when the touch was made. So from this distance, not quite sure which one of those it is, but Munich must be pretty pleased with that score. So back to a 1-point advantage now for Frankfurt. Yeah, it's a good question from the crowd there. Are they wasting time? The referee can simply blow the start of the game, and that's always a great way of encouraging the players to start moving the ball anyway. So don't wait for them to tap it, just blow the whistle and hold the defence and see if we can get them moving that way. So Frankfurt being very coy here, they're doing some good time management, but they're also forcing Munich to keep coming up towards them. Remember, every time you're forcing those defenders to move, you're setting some of their lines in. You can see this right side defence is just hanging back near the scoreline. The referee in a not very good position in order to influence them to move forward, leaving the on-field referee with 4 players to manage. So that's actually a bit of a mistake by the refereeing team, which has given Frankfurt not the opportunity they want to be able to score. If you were Frankfurt, you would be fairly unhappy with that sort of management. So Munich driving back down, change of direction, maybe caused by the mud rather than good planning. And yes, we've kept that, but oh no, kept the ball up, but no, then she's thrown it away at the end. So I think there's some confusion whether that was kept or not. So yeah, just go with the honourable thing and give it to the opponent, see what they can do. Good drive by Frankfurt, but you can see they're starting to not square up as they aim towards that subs box, so that's something they should potentially clean up. Dodge back towards this side, but now it's let that defence on the far side step up, so there really isn't very much there for Frankfurt to use. Some question about that roll ball as to whether it was clean or not. But no, there's no localised overlaps here for Frankfurt, so they're just running around trying to get a defensive mistake in order to create the gap. And Munich are too professional to allow that to happen, so just a lot of running around for not a lot of result out of that one. So drive the box again, they get 2-3 players off early on. Gee, this guy's got some pace in that, and he changes direction so well. It just gives them an extra 3 or 4 metres in the drive every time. And that extra 3 or 4 metres just keeps the defenders on their back foot, stops the defenders from realigning. So that is a really, really good play from him. Okay, we've reset that one. It's not a change in touch count there, so we continue in the touch count. So I think this one's going to be 3rd or 4th. What do we got there? Sounds like 4th if I trust the players yelling from the far side. Lucky trying to set this up with those long arms, gets the ball down quickly, but there's not a lot going on here. And oh, that was a terrible pass. Just given that away to the opposition when he really didn't need to do that. And he'd be very angry with himself over that. Frankfurt, a little bit of confusion there. They get their subs off early, but then they didn't have a plan of attack. But they get a lucky 1-2 lollipop of backwards and forwards between the middle and the far side link. And now they've got some drive forward. He's going to try and exploit the gap there from the ladies. But Munich have changed their pattern now. Now they're playing 2 girls left side, not 2 girls right side. And I don't think Frankfurt were aware of that. So they tried to exploit a gender mismatch there, which turned out to just not be there. It's a bit of a lack of clarity from the Frankfurters. So we hear the referees on the other field giving clear instructions to the players. Always nice to have some good referees on the field. Fifth touch, you've got to do something so spectacular with it here. He tries the goose step, he tries the change of pace, he tries the goose step again, and they're having none of that in the defence, thank you very much. And again, those moves on a muddy field are very, very tough to execute. On a dry field, you would have had to give the guy 50% chance of scoring out of one of those moves. Great, accurate pass there to the left. Look at the quality of that pass. Just straight ball right into the catchable position. Brilliant play there from Frankfurt. They've taken the meters benefits out of it. Very careful there, but unfortunately, no, there's a spoiling defender in that attacking line, and it's just really thrown off their chi there. And they've paid the price by putting the ball onto the turf, and now we have Munich back with the ball again. So Frankfurt not being able to capitalise on this 1-point advantage they have. They're just leaving this open. You wonder whether Munich can come back and actually take this one away. So let's see how they get down. There's plenty of defensive depth over here on the right, which means there must be an overlap on the left for Munich, but no, pass goes to ground. They just can't take advantage of that.
Yes, Lucas!
Yeah, here we go. A couple of people who know each other well, just getting used to that 1-2, and then Benny Edwards has a nice little flaky moment. Makes it look not quite so good. You'd have to say it came off the previous player and moved forward to the next player, but no, the referee's just said, no, we're okay. And the referee's not having a bar of that. And he's talking to the players and saying, no, I hear what you're saying, but we're not good with that. The sideline referee's now gotten involved. He's had a much clearer view of it. And in this particular case, it's an accidental offside or an accidental forward pass, either way round. Just a question of whether the attacker was forward of the ball when the ball was thrown forward or whether it was a forward pass. Same outcome, doesn't really matter. remember, as an attacker, if you are forward of the ball, you have no rights whatsoever, and the rules say you must get back to an onside position as soon as you can. Very unusual rule to apply there, but it still exists. And look at that winger get down low as quickly as she can, and she's gone underneath that touch, and that is a touchdown. Lovely, lovely play there. You'd have to be pleased as punch. On the replay there, you'll see her catch that ball, get the body as low to the ground as possible, and then launch forward. And that's been the cause of that touchdown. So, by my count, that feels like it's locked up again. So we could be up for a drop-off here. Dennis having none of that. That's an offside play there. So these defenders are just getting a little bit too enthusiastic. Maybe moving forward before the half has hands on the ball. So that's a no-no as well. Get that one forward. Okay, Frankfurt inside the 7, carefully move back out, forcing Munich to come out in defence. Munich still needs to come forward in defence. The referee is not really doing such a great job with that far side winger, but I can hear the referee yelling at the far side winger the whole time through. And we have a forward pass there against Frankfurt, and they'd have to be unpleased there. And a bit of confusion there. The defensive line certainly wasn't back 10, so that's disturbed Munich's advantage in terms of getting that ball moving forward. But now they're getting back into the flow of things again. If Munich can put a point on the board here, this could completely change the flavour of this game. So they'd have to be thrilled to try and do it. Oh, look at that pace getting clapped on. Easily outruns her opposite number. Unfortunately, runs into the next defender over. But certainly with that pace, you'd have to think about doing things differently. We got 6 again there, so perhaps this is the last gasp for Munich, and I've just seen the scorecard carrier show this is a drop-off game. So it gets real exciting now. So for those of you who don't know the drop-off rules, this is a mixed game. So you start a drop-off with 4 players each side. We start the game as quickly as possible. And when we have 4 players from each side, you can have no more than 2 men. So that's the exception to the normal rule, no more than 3 men during normal time. During a drop-off, no more than 2 men on the field. So 2 guys, 2 gals, or 1 guy, 3 gals. You can't have no guys and 4 gals because that's not a mixed team. So let's see how this one goes. We're going to play for 2 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, after the hooter goes and the ball is dead, if one of the teams is ahead in the scoreline, then that's it. That's all she wrote. Otherwise, at the end of 2 minutes, if the score is still equal, we drop 1 more player from each squad. So again, mixed rules. You can either have 2 guys and a gal or 1 guy and 2 gals. And we play until the first team scores. There is no more a right of reply. It's just first team to score wins after that 2-minute hooter goes. So the team that starts with the ball is the team that started with the ball in the second half. So when you win the toss for a drop-off game, a lot of captains are actually giving the ball to the opponents at the start of the game. So then in the second half, the toss winner gets to keep the ball, so you also get the ball in the drop-off. So 2 minutes here. Normally it takes them about 30 seconds to drive down to the line and ideally score. They're looking pretty good. Oh, lovely late pass out of that. He's just managed to beat his defending player, get the pass off, but the referee says no. The receiver of that pass is touched before the ball has hit the ground, so we're back to the touchdown again. Now that's interesting for Frankfurt because it's burned another 15 seconds worth of time, which makes clock management very much easier. Keep the ball outside the 7, force Munich to move forward. Oh, localised overlap on the right, but they blow it completely. They needed to go right, not come back into the left again. They had the winger way out wide in a catching position. They had a female defender on the link out there, but they came back into the centre and the strength. You'd have to say that was a tactical error by Frankfurt, and that is going to make them pay. If Munich score here, that's going to make it interesting. Now, if Munich don't score here with the 2-minute rule, that will just give enough time for Frankfurt to make 1 more attack, so Frankfurt could still win this 1-0 in the drop-off. But if Munich score first, all bets are off. Oh, unfortunately, they can't quite make the pass there from half. And now Frankfurt is in control of the clock and in control of this game. All they need to do is be safe, drive down the other end and score, and you'd have to say that would be all over. But with 4 players, they're just not making enough metres forward. They really aren't. Not getting far enough forward, so they're not giving themselves a great touchdown position to attempt to go with this. And this is playing into Munich's hands and may well give Munich the game. Oh, now, no, here we go. Now they're getting some go forward at the last gasp. And Benny Edwards runs in for the easiest of touchdowns there using his pace. But it's a forward pass. Oh no, Frankfurt are devastated. With only a few seconds left, even if the hooter goes, we're going to drop to 3-on-3 and Munich are... No, there we go. The hooter has already gone for the 2 minutes, so we're down to 3 players each. And you'd have to put your money on Munich to be able to run this one in for a touchdown. Certainly the first team to not make a mistake here is going to win this game. Third touch, coming up to the 4th touch. She just runs around the edge with the pace of number 1 there. Oh, but she gets touched by the cover defender before she gets it down. So that's fantastic play by the cover defender, knowing that the winger is going to get beaten. And just good enough to make sure they've got enough cover for the winger. Munich try to exploit that gap. No, they can't do that. And the pass is just too early. Just too early. If he gave an extra few seconds to number 1, she could have ran outside her opposing number without the ball and then received the ball in a pass. So that's a terrible mistake there by Munich. That's the hooter for the start of the other game, but this game is going to play for as long as it takes until we have a winner here. It's a bit of a question as to which team is going to accidentally score in this game, because nobody's looking like they have a true plan towards scoring. Great delayed pass there. The Munich players are having trouble covering this, but they're still going to make it on through. Yep, and just enough pace to get around the outside. That's an easy touchdown, and that will be the game. Frankfurt wins by a single point in what was a very long drop-off.